for women, I believe when we get pregnant, that's when we start crossing this mother threshold. And for any woman who's out there who has had an abortion or is going to get one and still wants to be a mother eventually, I think that your future mother self is the one that's leading you to this abortion, is the one that's leading you in this decision. Like, girl, I got you. This is not the time for it, but you will get there. And I already know because I'm already here.
Welcome to the Multiple Truths podcast. We're your hosts, Holly
and Brittany. This is a space where we can come together healing in community, where we share our self-love journeys, insights, and wisdom.
A space with no hierarchy or judgment, fostering love, compassion, and respect, and where we honor our differences. With open minds and hearts, everyone's truth is welcome here. We are in this together.
Let's dive into the episode.
Hello and welcome back. You're here with Holly, and today I am joined with a fellow sister, Ash Murphy. This is actually her second time on the podcast. I had her on a while ago, and we were talking about healing negative body image through radical self-love and compassion, which was such a beautiful episode. But I'm having her back on today, and we are going to be holding space for her abortion story. She is a mama bear of 2 kids and had an abortion after having 2 children. And I feel like her voice is so deeply needed in this space because the majority of people getting abortions are already parenting, are already moms. And another important piece to weave in here is that her husband had actually had a vasectomy and they still got pregnant. So just another really important piece to highlight. And yeah, I shared my abortion story a month or so ago. I had one 11 years ago. And if you have not listened to that episode, I highly encourage you to listen to that before diving into this one. I will have it in the show notes linked below, just for you to really understand why I feel so passionate about talking about this topic. With women's rights being stripped away, it is so important to speak about abortion in a way that feels really true for me and highlighting other women's stories and sharing our perspective and our views of women that have actually been through this experience and how we feel and how we have healed and learned and grown from these experiences. So I really encourage you to go listen to my story if you have not already. But yeah, to give you a little bit more background on Ash, she has been a beauty artist for the past 20 years. She has turned her focus from outer beauty work in the fashion space to more inner beauty work, self-love, and compassion for the last decade. She is deeply devoted to creating safe healing containers for her community because in these containers, she feels that we can shine light to the darkest parts of ourselves and grow. And ritual is at the heart of everything that she does. She is here, she feels, to root people in their dharma and to help them truly see themselves. And her goal is to remind us that beauty and love are at the root of everything, which I just love so incredibly much. She is such a beautiful soul. So if you are a mom who has had an abortion or are considering one, I really hope that you feel seen in this episode. And yeah, I'm just so grateful for Ash for being vulnerable and sharing her story because it's so deeply needed again in this space. So with that, let's dive into it. Hello, Ash. I am so excited to sit down and chat with you today. How are you?
I am doing good. I have
Good.
a lot of stuff swirling under this Pisces eclipse season.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And this is the second time you've been on. I almost forgot about that. So we're just like bringing you back on, everyone, if you remember Ash. But I'm excited to dive into, yeah, what we're going to be talking about today because I feel like your voice is so needed in this space. So, yeah, I'd love to just start by opening the space for you to share your abortion story. I know you're a mom with 2 kids, and I feel your story and perspective as a mom is so needed in this space, like I said, because majority of women who have abortions are already parenting. So yeah, whatever you feel comfortable sharing about your story, I'd love to hear and just, yeah, start there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this space and this opportunity to share. One thing I like to think about when we're sharing these stories, the first thing that I want to say is when we talk about women having abortions, especially as parents, we also have to talk about men having
Mhm.
abortions because it is a two-person decision.
Mhm.
So that doesn't get to just be put on the woman every single time, right? Which was like a big thing that I was stepping into in claiming my voice around my abortion. It was a decision that I made with my partner.
Mhm.
So it definitely was something that he and I both take responsibility
Mhm.
for sure. Um, so I will start there because sometimes I hear that wording around like the mothers making that choice, which is absolutely our choice to make. I'm not saying that it was like my partner said to do that or anything like that, but just so
Mhm.
it's not always on us as the
Right.
women.
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So yeah, I think I want to first just start with like the whole picture of my body
Mhm.
and kind of a short story on everything that I had been through previously. I had my first miscarriage when I was 21
Mhm.
at about 8 weeks. So I was very aware of what that was like, what that time frame was like, what the embryo is like when it comes out of my body, all of that kind of stuff. Very much aware of that process of shedding.
Mhm.
Um, and then I had my oldest when I was 29 and my youngest when I was 30. So they're 22 months apart. So two babies at one time,
Yeah.
essentially,
Oh my
which
goodness.
was a lot of fun. It's still a lot of fun and I love it. But my partner and I consciously made the decision to get a vasectomy. And about um, a year in, after he checked his sperm, all of the things were in the clear. I woke up in the morning and I always know the minute that I get pregnant, like just it's this pinch, I can feel it, it's right there. And I woke up and I was like, I think I'm pregnant. And he was like, there's no way you're pregnant, we're
Mhm.
in the clear. And so I go and I take a pregnancy test of the like thousands that I still had left over from my youngest only being one at this point. Maybe she's 1.5 at this point. Um, and I am in fact pregnant. And it wasn't even like a moment of whether or not I was going to not have this baby or have it. It was probably within like a 20-minute meditation after finding out that I was like, of course, I'm not having this baby. I
Mhm.
already made this decision a year and a half ago or a year ago to not do that. And that is how I still feel in this
Mhm.
moment. So it was not like a big kind of bridge that I kind of needed to walk over. It was a bridge that I had already crossed, right?
Right. Mhm.
Um, it was extremely hard to hold my children that morning and have them cuddle in bed with me and think about a third baby and what that would feel like and how beautiful that would be and what would they be like and all of those XYZ things that we go into. But I also took into consideration my relationship with each of my children and how every single time I have another child that divides, I am divided. I am divided from them. I am divided yet again from my partner. I
Mhm.
am divided yet again from myself, from all of the things I need to birth within myself and create in this world. Because women's wombs are not just to produce babies. We're here
Mhm.
to produce so many things.
Mhm.
Um, so there was so much swirling in there, but there was this through line, this thread that felt very distinct, and I am not supposed to keep this baby. And it was actually pretty interesting. My mother was visiting at the time, who is Mormon. She is no longer with us, even though she's definitely in this room right now,
Yeah.
listening to what I'm saying. And I was really worried about telling her, which she's letting me know to share with you all, that she did have multiple abortions as a Mormon mother. So that is
Oh, full
a
body
decision that she
chills.
did make.
Hmm.
Um, but
You know
I,
what's so interesting? Can I say something really
yeah, of course,
quickly?
of course.
Because I know you brought in your mom our last episode together. So it was interesting. I meditate every morning. I meditated this morning and I prayed and she popped in and I was like, please be with us today. It's
Mm,
making me emotional because I just remember, yeah, she was a big piece in your story of sharing around body image and stuff. So I feel her spirit too. I felt her this morning. So I'm just, thank you for
right,
bringing her in and just a
yeah.
way to honor her. This is
Mhm.
honoring her too. So
Yeah.
I just
Mm,
want to say that.
thank
Yeah,
you. Oh, my
beautiful.
body is like full chills. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
And I'm glad she popped in for you because, you kind of popped her back in for me this morning. So, yeah. So at first I was like, I don't know if I'm going to tell her. I don't know if I need to tell her. And
Hmm.
just immediately, she's like cleaning my dishes or something in the morning and I'm pouring us coffee. And I was like, so I want you to know that I'm pregnant and I'm not keeping this baby. And she hugged me and she just like closed her eyes and meditated and she, talked to this being. And then she opened her eyes and she looked at me and she said, this is all the time this being needed to incarnate.
Oh,
That was
oh.
it. This is all they needed, was just this little jump in here into this human incarnation. And it's like these souls already know what's
Hmm.
ahead. There's all
Yeah.
these pathways are so predestined in so many ways that it's like, um, yeah, it was just this really reaffirming moment of like, yeah, that that makes sense. That's exactly what you need to do.
Hmm.
So it was really beautiful to have that. And not knowing anything really about abortions because I hadn't had one yet,
Hmm.
I went. It was a pretty interesting journey after that. I luckily learned right away that the majority of abortions are made by parents, people
Hmm.
who are really intentional about their parenting, they're intentional about their time, they're, I think, more than anything, responsible, right? I think that one of the most responsible things we can do as women
Hmm.
um, are is to be very intentional about birth. Birth is not some random thing that like, oh, you just have to give birth. Like that's it. That's all you're doing. It's like, no, we are not only are we giving birth, but we are crossing one of the most major thresholds that we can cross. We are
Hmm.
entering into the underworld and traveling to the cosmos to get these souls to come to this planet. It's not just some, oh, you're just pregnant for 9 months and you're popping out a baby. Like it's massive, massive work. And it's
Hmm.
something that will continue if we are intentional about it, as intentional as we are with getting an abortion. It's something that will follow us throughout. Something that I practice deeply is intentional parenting. It's something that I've done since the moment I gave birth. So,
Hmm.
there's so much to it. Yeah, but it was a very windy road after that. I called Kaiser for an abortion, and the person on the advice line told me that Kaiser doesn't do abortions,
Hmm.
which I later found out is not true. But luckily, I have a very good friend who owns a women's private practice, and I called her right away, and she just said, we can figure it out together. Um, so I got my abortion from her and luckily just felt so held. And the crazy thing, like one of the crazy things, there's so many crazy things, but one of the crazy things was that um, I was her eighth mother who had gone in to get an abortion after having children that um, got pregnant after a vasectomy from
Hmm.
Kaiser. And that's just one OBGYN. I was
Hmm.
her eighth patient.
Wow.
So, I also feel like there's like maybe we don't have enough information about vasectomies and how easily they grow back. I don't know. I
Hmm.
just And I think that's also the thing that I want to bring in is, you know, our body, our choice, but it's so much bigger than that, because it's not even just our body. It's like our intentional threshold crossing that has been taken from us.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I have been working with a lot with some of my clients is reframing how our blood is not for production. And so often we are tracking our cycles, seeing if we're fertile, all of these things for producing babies, for producing more humans. But in reality, like, our blood is a love letter to ourselves about what the inner workings are inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, there's just so much in there right now that's asking to be cleared up around like our actual reclaiming of our bodies, not just
Mm-hmm.
abortion, but like really reclaiming our bodies and our
Right.
blood and our
Mm-hmm.
reproductive organs, you know, really reclaiming our reproductive organs.
Right.
Um, yeah. So the story continues. There's a lot of stuff that ends up happening after that that trickles down.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't have to necessarily go into right now.
Yeah, maybe we'll dive more into that. But you've touched on some really good points because I always say too, it's like you and your husband took all the precautions to not get pregnant and you got pregnant. And I always say, like, no one wants to have an abortion. No one wants to have to make that decision. You could be taking all of the precautions like you guys did and still get pregnant. And that has to still be a choice because you guys were intentional about that. And I think that's just so important to bring in because you guys did take all of the steps to not get pregnant and it still happened. And I think that's just so beautiful that you and your husband, I want to talk a little bit more about like what that looked like between you and your partner and like what support you needed, what those conversations looked like for any woman or couple that is navigating that right now. Like what can that conversation look like? What can as the woman who is going to have to go in to have that procedure, what support did you need? But before we dive into that, I think that's so beautiful too that your mom coming from the Mormon religion too was able to be so in tune with herself for like her to be able to give you a hug and feel that soul and like have that message come through so clear and not let the distortion of religion clutter that message, that beautiful message that came through, because I feel like that's so true. These souls already know that they're not meant to incarnate here. I feel like they come here to teach us something. And I know for me, if my abortion didn't happen, I wouldn't be speaking about it in this way. And it needs to be spoken about in this way. And even for you, it's like they're not saying this is why that happened, but it's so important to know like we got the vasectomy and it still happened. Like these conversations need to be here too. And it all serves a much greater purpose. And the way that it's viewed in society and in religion is so limited and just like so distorted, I feel. So I just love that you brought that in, that your mom was able to support you. Like that's so beautiful too, in that sort of way that you were able to share with your mom and get her support too. Cause I know a lot of women don't feel safe telling their parents or their mom. And I just think that's so beautiful. But yeah, I wanted to see, yeah, maybe expanding on a bit of like what that conversation looked like with your partner. How did you guys have these conversations, get to that decision together? And then how did your partner support you? Like, what did you need in that moment since you were the one that actually had to go to the clinic and have the procedure done and all of that?
Yeah. Hmm. I think most of mine and Jake's conversations again happened before the vasectomy, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
we already crossed that bridge
Right.
and had all of those big discussions on where we're at. Again, looking at the whole picture, I want to keep zooming out. It's like, and it's like this for every woman. Like, I'm going to bring my mom back into it for a moment, because she had in her lifetime, I think, 15 miscarriages, right? So we can miscarry and be wanting a baby at certain times, and then at certain times of our life we don't need a baby, we can't have a baby, we can't support a baby. I mean, mentally and physically, what it does to have a baby and then a child and then a teenager and then an adult, it is a lot. So
Hmm.
the timing, if again we're intentional about it and we're responsible about it and we're choosing to love ourselves to be able to love others, right? Putting on our oxygen mask first, we're lining up the timing correctly, and just because we didn't want a baby in that moment didn't mean that we didn't want one before or after, or whatever the case is, so
Mhm.
there's always that zoom in, zoom out. And for my whole picture, I had an insane postpartum anxiety, so intense, that it's like I was just barely hanging on by a thread with getting through all of that. And then finally, my youngest, there's magic things that happen when your youngest turns 1, and then your youngest turns 4, and your youngest turns 7. It's like you start getting pieces of yourself back. And
Mhm.
so me finally having this piece of myself back, and then
Mhm.
finding out I'm pregnant, I'm like, absolutely not.
Mhm. Mhm.
So there wasn't a lot of conversation by
Mhm.
the time we got to that point of abortion. I was like, we had already made that decision.
Mhm.
The holding around having it and getting to sit in the grief, I think grief is an interesting visitor always. And so it kind of depends on the day. Like sometimes I will grieve that um, that what if
Mhm.
situation.
Mhm.
But then within the next 20 minutes, my kids are like fighting with each other, and I'm just like, or I'm like, up at Harbin Hot Springs zenning out because I can finally do that in my journey of motherhood. And I'm like, yes, this was the right decision.
Mhm.
So there's just an ebb and flow around the holding and the discussion and the decision. um, I would say post abortion, just having like a few days to really cleanse and shed and release is very important.
Mhm.
Reaching out to people who can hold you if your partner can't, and you
Mhm.
know that about your partner, especially if you haven't already had kids, I would say. Really reaching out to your women around you and having them
Mhm.
hold you and really speaking out about it. It's this, I tell this with women with miscarriage too. I know we try to hide our excitement around birth until we get to 12 weeks or 14 weeks to really make sure we're far along. But it's
Mhm.
like, you need to be held. If something does happen
Right.
in those 14 weeks, you deserve holding, whether it's celebration, celebratory holding, or grief. You deserve your community to hold you through all of that.
Mhm.
So, yeah, calling on your people and making sure that you have other holding, especially like, for instance, I had a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. So my partner was holding them while I was
Mhm.
kind of holding myself.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. And, I think there's something in the power of like knowing your why. And I feel this way about so many things in life. But even writing down your why so you can remember it. So if and when
Mhm.
people come in and try to push their narrative on you, you have that root system to go back to and be like, no, this was the right decision. And
Mhm.
only I will know that. Because each
Right.
abortion, right, is also like its own abortion, just like each birth is its own birth. Like
Mhm.
no two are the same, no two are alike. They're so
Mhm.
different from each other, and circumstances are so different from each other. So,
Right. Yeah.
um, yeah, I think I answered the
Yeah.
question. I don't
No, I
know
love
if
that.
I've
Yes, yeah.
gone off a bit.
I love that. I just think, like you mentioned too, it's so important that men are a part of this conversation too, and it's not just all on the woman, and we need men to hold us in that and have these conversations and both take ownership and accountability and make this decision together and be able to hold one another. And I think that for some couples, it can really build the bond stronger, or it can be a breaking point, I think. But ultimately, because I know for me, when I made the choice to have an abortion, I was not with the man who had gotten me pregnant. And I made that decision on my own because it was 11 years ago. And I made that decision on my own because I knew what I needed to do for me. And I had friends with me that supported me at that point. And then I shared with him afterwards. And he was so incredibly supportive. And now he's my husband. Like 11 years later, he's now my husband. But he was, so I had to do that on my own. He was kind of taken out of the equation. But now he's the one who brings in, I got you pregnant. It takes two to tango. And like, it's just as much I don't know why you're having to take all the brunt of having all these conversations. Like, I should also be a part of it. And I think that the men need to be a part of the conversation. And I think, yeah, having really open, raw conversations with one another, and hopefully your partner can hold you in that. Or if the partner is unable to, yeah, like leaning on your community. And I think it's just so hard, I feel, to speak about it, to lean on community, because you just never know what someone else is going to think. I think like abortion is so taboo and no one talks about it, but hopefully with these conversations it's starting to like let the light in and like help people shift in different ways. But even if you don't have anyone in your community, like going to a therapist and at least like sharing with someone, like we need just even like opening up to someone in your life, because shame thrives in secrecy, and when it's a secret it's just so heavy and so dense and can make you feel so bad about the decision that you needed to make for you. And support is just so needed during that. So yeah, I love that Jake was supportive and you guys, like, you had that conversation prior. um and knowing your why too, because I think like you said, with the grief coming up and all of that, like I feel like grief is so natural. Grief, relief, all of the emotions are present and they're all allowed to be here. Like you can hold space for it all. And I feel like allowing the grief to come in and feel that, but ultimately like knowing why you did what you did at that point, to continue to be that kind of like guiding light. Because I think, yeah, I'd love to touch on that, because like for women who have kids who have had an abortion, or even if you didn't have kids and you've had an abortion, and like think about later in life, like what if, like what, have that deep almost like regret of like, oh, I wish I would have kept that, like what if. I feel like maybe diving into those feelings, maybe having, yeah, your thoughts on that, because I feel like that's valid too, that's welcome too. I think like there's no one right way to view or think about it, like allowing all of the emotions, all of the thoughts to come in, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're true, just like riding the waves of the emotions and the thoughts as they come in. But if you, yeah, how you navigated that, I guess like you always went back to your why and like had your space and all of that. So, yeah, if there's anything you want to add to that for any woman that is like feeling a little like regretting their decision, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you're feeling any type of regret, I don't think I felt any regret. I think it was more just like the feeling of loving my kids so much, and like what love is, like what love actually is, because you really don't know what love is until you birth a child. I
Mm-hmm.
I deeply believe that. Like you don't know the extent it can stretch you until
Right.
you give birth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but just I think more than anything, it was like, what would that being be like? Because my two children are so fucking cool and like
Yeah.
magical. I'm just like, what would that third one have been like? But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, like whenever that piece comes in, immediately it turns back to the division of time and
Mm-hmm.
having enough time, and again with my intentional parenting that I do, like, and I was telling you earlier, we are unschooling our kids now. So
Mm-hmm.
when I say I am an intentional mother, like I am giving them as much of myself as I can. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not just like this production line again, like I'm producing babies, giving birth to them, sending them to preschool, sending them to school, sending them here. It's like, no, what is it to actually have a child and be with them and see them and give them as much of me as I can, while still also having time for myself? And what is that juggle and that balance? So I think at any time those what ifs came in, there was always this mirror that was put up in front of me of like, that
Mm-hmm.
you need you. Like there's a time eventually in your life when you need yourself back,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't get
Mm-hmm.
lost in this production line again. I'll go back to the archetypes, right? Like for women, I believe when we get pregnant, that's when we start crossing this mother threshold. And for any woman who's out there who has had an abortion or is going to get one and still wants to be a mother eventually, I think that your future mother self is the one that's leading you to this abortion, is the one that's leading you in this decision. Like, girl, I got you. This
Mhm.
is not the time for it, but
Mhm.
you will get there. And I already know because I'm already here with your baby
Mhm.
seeing you, like
Yeah.
she's already got you and she's helping you find the right time for that.
Mhm.
And then for the male piece that came in, men do not cross the father threshold when we get pregnant. They are in a whole nother hunter realm. They're still moving through their hunter threshold. And it
Mhm.
takes time. It's not even when the baby first takes their first breath. It takes time for them to really cross through that father threshold. I think
Mhm.
if we had communities set up where all the fathers were coming to usher them into this father threshold, it would be different.
Mhm.
But that's not where this Western society leads us in this moment. We're doing some things to change that. But, it's like, so for instance, the male piece and the male voice around it, like, absolutely 100% we need more fathers speaking up about this. And when all of the rights were starting to get stripped a while ago now. Not only did I share my abortion story, but Jake shared his part of the abortion story. And it was something we shared together because he had his part in it. And as
Mhm.
a father who has crossed the father threshold, he can speak to that.
Mhm.
But when we have men trying to create laws around women's bodies, they might be
Mhm.
fathers, but they didn't cross the father threshold. Who
Mhm.
knows where their kids are? Who knows what boarding school their kids got sent to? Whatever XYZ scenario.
Mhm.
But even then, like, if you have not crossed through the actual threshold of motherhood, if you have not gone into the underworld with Anana to find that soul and rebirth yourself as you are birthing that baby, because we die every single time we give birth, then
Mhm.
you cannot speak to this. This is not
Mhm.
a place for your voice.
Mhm.
And that's it, period, bottom line. If you have not gone and journeyed through this or know that you are, right? Like your future self is holding you. Or let's say any woman in her own body, we can speak to it because it is our threshold to go through.
Mhm.
But to have someone else speak on it that will never cross through that threshold, they will never go through that fire, you can't speak on it. That's it,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like yeah, women specifically are the ones and women who really understand too. It's like it's your body, your choice. No one else should be able to tell you what you get to do with your body and your life, especially the government. And I think it's just women supporting other women, even if you are not a mom, or if you are friends with a mom, if you're an aunt, like if you're just a woman, we need to come together. And I think we do need men allies too, who actually know and are like connected to their hearts, are able to speak on this and not from an egoic way or not from a religious way, because I think it's so important to speak about it in a way that is supportive. I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I just think everything with how it's viewed right now is like, oh, abortion is murder. And it's like you are murdering a baby. And that's just like so far from what it is. I think there's so much there. It's such an uneducated opinion to have, I feel. And it's so not rooted in truth. Um, but something I wanted to say too, what you said too about like, for me, like I had an abortion 11 years ago. I still know I want to be a mom and I am going to be a mom. And I think it's like so beautiful to know that wasn't the right time. And that actually shaped me. That experience shaped me into the woman that I am today. And I'm so grateful for that experience and like for that soul that came down to teach me, that is still very much with me, guiding me and Eric through our healing journeys and learning how to come more home to ourselves and learn how to love ourselves, so then they can come through when we can be the versions of ourselves that we need to be able to support these souls. Like 11 years ago was not the time, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to be a mom, even if you've had one and you needed to do for you what you needed to do what you needed to do for you at that time in your life doesn't take away from when you do get pregnant if you still want to have kids. And I think that's actually something that I'm really navigating right now, being honest, because like I know Eric and I are wanting to get pregnant soon and going to be going down that path soon. And it's like I just shared my story, and I know that there's, extended family members and people in community that don't have the same views as me as abortion. And it's like that fear of not feeling like I'm going to be celebrated when I'm pregnant because I had an abortion. So like, how dare you have a child? And I think that that's just something, if I'm being honest, that's like something I'm really sitting with right now, because I know I'll be supported regardless, even if it's not by people that I would hope would be there for me. I know like my family will be there, but like I don't know what extended family, extended friends are feeling. And just that fear, I think, is so valid, of like not feeling celebrated because you've had this past experience. So shame on you. There's women out there that can't get pregnant. You got pregnant after having an abortion. Like, we are not going to celebrate you. That is not like, that's so I think there's just like so much stigma and so much distortion around the top, just around it in general. So I just want to bring that, I think, into the conversation, because I feel like that's needed too, for like women that have had abortions but still want to be moms. Like, it's beautiful, and you'll be the mom that you were always meant to be when the time is right. It just wasn't the right time. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that in too.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that I think about often, when people have a hard time with our decisions, it's because they are stuck in a box that we have found our way out of,
Mhm.
and they don't know how to get out of it. They don't know how. And that's really difficult for them. So in return, they lash out,
Mhm.
and again, no two stories are the same. So for someone who can't get pregnant, their story is different, and
Mhm.
had they been able to get pregnant when they didn't want to, that's a different story too, right? So that also goes back to your body, your choice. If you want to get pregnant and you can't, you are making the decision to try to get pregnant. I
Mhm.
think, especially within the Mormon religion, one thing that is very confusing for me is to see my extended family use IVF, but be
Mhm.
against abortion.
Mhm.
And to me, that doesn't make any sense. To me, it's your body, your choice. If we're saying that, it's God's decision to um, essentially give you a baby, if you can't get pregnant and you have to use IVF, isn't that the same thing in reverse as abortion, right? Like, are
Mhm.
you supposed to have a baby if God's not letting you get pregnant? That kind of storyline that kind of gets woven in to things.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I also think, it's like, so as they strip away rights, which I know that they're doing, I know IVF is getting stripped away as well, and
Mhm.
again, it just puts us in this production line. It's very much like the Handmaid's Tale of like,
Mhm.
can you produce? Can you not produce? Are you worthy of producing? Are you not? It's like
Right.
no two stories are the same. Whether
Mhm.
or not you want to get pregnant or you don't want to get pregnant, that is your decision, you know?
Mhm.
Do I believe that people should be having 10 kids until they get to finally their boy? So they have 9 girls and then a boy? No, I would not do
Mhm.
that in my storyline. But am I going to
Mhm.
take that right away from anyone else? No, it's their body, it's their family. They get to make that decision.
Mhm.
So, it all trickles down into the same space. And if you want your freedom around your choice and your body and your family, you have to allow the same with any other woman's story, any other partnership story, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
and like, again, I think that you would be surprised probably by how many people in your family had abortions and they're just not talking about it.
I
You
know. I've really thought about that. And I want to make that so clear for people. Like, be mindful of how you talk about abortion because it is a far more common experience than it is talked about. And you have no idea who has had one, and they're hiding it from you. And the way that you're speaking about it can be so harmful. Like, it is a way more common experience than we realize. And yeah, it's just so important to be mindful of how you speak about it, especially if you don't have similar views. And yeah. And something I want to say that you brought in about the Mormon beliefs and all of that with IVF, it's just like there's so much contradiction in this space. There's so much contradiction. And that's been something I've been sitting with recently because I've been feeling like so much anger around the laws that are going into place right now. And what was really coming through was like just how contradictory we are being in the US. We are actively funding and complacent in the genocide that is happening in Gaza, where there are thousands of children, babies, pregnant mothers getting murdered every single day. Yet we are complacent and we are actively funding that, but we're over here trying to strip women of their rights because of these unborn babies that are not actually here. But we are okay with murdering and slaughtering children and babies that are actually here. Like, the contradiction makes me so livid. And it's never been about the unborn babies. It's always been about control over women. And I truly believe that in my bones. And it just has been angering me to my core. I feel that. And then I can always come back to compassion and, where we're at, and things need to change. And it's igniting so many women to use our voices and share our stories, which is freeing the women of our world right now. And it's needed. But I hope that we can see the contradiction that is happening, like, and how we're choosing to like view things, and what we're willing to look at, what we're not willing to look at, what we're willing to admit to. Like, there's just so many contradictions, and it makes me livid. It just makes me livid.
Yeah. I mean, Gaza obviously is a massive thing and moment right now, and all control 100% down to the last ash falling there. It's beyond words, beyond podcast.
Yeah.
All of it is just
Yeah.
a lot. And even if we just, even if we zoom out of that, which is massive, and we just come back to the soil of this land and what is happening to children, I think it's one in every um, one in every four children by the time they are 12 will have been molested. I mean,
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
beyond. It
Hmm.
has nothing to do with the baby, the fetus. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with the woman. Think about how many
Hmm.
women and babies die all the time, depending on your race in the hospital.
Hmm.
It has
Hmm.
nothing to do with that. It absolutely 100% comes back to control of the divine feminine, a thousand
Hmm.
percent.
Hmm.
There's so much I can go into here around the motherhood threshold. It's a deep part of my work on this planet
Hmm.
and in my incarnation as a human this time around. But if they could strip us from all of our bodily ritual, they would have. They've done it to the
Hmm.
masculine. The
Hmm.
masculine is so far separated from what their body's ritual is on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis. And if we did not bleed every month and have that connection to the moon, they would have
Hmm.
taken that ritual from us. If our blood did not produce more human beings, they would have taken that ritual from us. If we did not have to birth babies through our body, we
Hmm.
would be so disconnected from our bodies, just like
Mhm,
the masculine's disconnected from the divine masculine.
mhm,
And this is their way of creating just really just taking our vocal cords out, really just taking out our throat chakra and being like, you don't get to choose. We get to choose that for you. And that's
mhm.
really absolutely what this is about.
Right.
And
Yeah.
one thing that I wanted to bring in, or one thing that came into me this morning, was when we were in deep relationship with our plant brothers and sisters and had that ongoing communication going. First
Mhm.
of all, I think there used to be a lot more ritual around the threshold of just intermixing water together, our juices, our flow state, our shakti.
Mhm.
Um, but we used to also be so in touch with plants that we would be taking different herbs as women every single time we had intercourse with a man. You know, there were
Mhm.
certain things, and not only that, not only would we know which herbs to take, which I can share some of those things. I don't know how you could put it in here, but one of my beautiful crone sisters, um, she is just so in touch with the herbs and has a whole write up about this. So we as women
Mhm.
can choose these things post
Mhm.
intercourse. Um,
Mhm.
More like a plan B situation, but just herb based, you know.
Right. Mhm.
But also, we used to be so in touch with our moon cycle. This wouldn't have even been a thing that we would have to worry about because we would know exactly where we were within our ovum cycle. There would never
Mhm.
even be a question on whether or not we could get pregnant because we knew exactly where our egg was in our body at that time, you know?
Mhm.
So I think there's a lot to it, right? Like, I deeply believe in divine timing. I deeply believe in coyote trickster energy coming to stir shit up so we find another avenue, so we reclaim something else. So, as we use our voice and we reclaim the space and we continue to choose what we want to choose while we can,
Mhm.
we also find these other avenues and relearn these things about our bodies. We really tune into, like, do we want to take birth control that completely stops us from knowing our cycle, that takes us
Mhm.
away from deep connection with the moon, you know, like, how do we get back to actually knowing our bodies and knowing our cycle and knowing the herbs that will help us cleanse when and if we need to, or if we're not cleansing, attracting spirits in and getting pregnant, you know, like, there's so many beautiful ways to get back in touch with ourselves outside of dictatorship, you know?
Right.
And I think that's also a really beautiful thing to focus on, right? It's like getting back to that root because that root still exists somewhere. You know,
Mhm.
those seeds are all still there. Again, our connection to Grandmother Moon is not going anywhere.
Mhm.
We have that with her no matter what, you know?
Mhm.
And I deeply believe because we have these bodily rituals to connect to, it's in our remembering that's going to help our partners remember their bodily rituals and
Mhm.
their sacred seed and what
Right.
it is to have that sacred water that can create life, that can be
Mhm.
planted, you know.
Right.
So yeah, there's such a inhale, exhale, micro, macro story here, right?
I feel like it's like a deep remembrance of the truth of connected to our bodies. I think we've just become so far from, so disconnected from ourselves, from our bodies, just living in these boxes, one way of living. Like, but I feel like women specifically are really remembering who we are, remembering why we came here, remembering the seeds that were planted by our ancestors that so desperately want to be remembered and watered and birthed back here to help shift things. And it's just like the remembrance of the beauty of our bodies and being connected to our cycles. And yeah, it just feels like this deep remembrance that is wanting to come through, that I feel is coming through so many women, and the women will help them, like it help the men will all remember together. I mean, it's a movement that's happening. It's going to take time, but I do feel like it's like this deep ancestral remembrance. And I just feel like so much respect, even just for the indigenous, the Native Americans. I feel like they were so connected to the earth and to community. And I just feel there's so much wisdom that was lost that we are trying to remember from those times, and just like so much support from our spirit guides and guardian angels to support us in that remembrance. And it's, yeah, it's beautiful, but it's gonna definitely take some time. But yeah, I feel that. And something that keeps popping in that I would love your perspective on. So I feel like a lot of people bring in the fact of, well, why didn't you go down the route of like having the baby because then you could give it up for adoption. And I feel like adoption is not for everyone. I honor the moms that feel called to go down that route. My uncle was adopted and I honor that and I love him, and I'm grateful that his mom felt the call to have him and he was brought into our family. But I do not believe adoption is for everyone. I don't believe that every woman needs to go through that experience. Every woman is on her own journey, and if she feels called to go down that route, I honor that, but that's not for everyone. So I just would love your opinion on that because I feel like that pops in a lot in around this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think again, when that pops in, it's like no two stories are alike. That is not an option for everybody. That is
Mhm.
not a that is such a layer to this story, which again, you're still getting pregnant. You still are growing a whole universe inside your body that you then have to birth out. Like that, just that alone, if we could just focus on even that
Mhm.
process. And again, like the way we talk about birth is as if it's like taking a dump in the morning, you know what I mean? Like just a
Mhm.
good old release in the toilet and here we go. It's like that's not what this is. It is
It's
such
so
a
sacred.
sacred thing
Yeah.
that you are choosing to do, whether or not you choose to do it. And that all of that just in itself is something to then say, well, can't you just give your baby up for adoption? It's like, well, that's not what I'm doing. I didn't just get pregnant and now I'm just here's a baby. Like there's a whole journey in there that has to happen. And again, for any woman who has gone through it, you are dying. You die. It doesn't matter what you think you're going to be after on the other side. So many women try to get back to themselves after having a baby. I'm trying to get my pre-body baby back, my pre-baby body back. You know,
Mhm.
all of these things of trying to get back to somewhere. You never
Mhm.
get back there. And to say, can't you just give it up for adoption? Like, give what up for adoption? Again, it's not just something that you're just giving away, it's a whole universe that you created. It is 7 generations of ancestral trauma and joy, and your bones and your blood and your water and your cells that are wrapped into this being. It's not just a baby that, like, here you go, here's my baby, you know? So,
Mhm.
yes, that is not for everyone. And
Mhm.
again, there's so much attached to that storyline of why was I given up? What
Mhm.
is this now that I'm holding this whole way? Where is my ancestry? Where is my bloodline? What soil am I from? There's so many things wrapped up in that again, if you're not the one who is pregnant and making the decision, you don't get to ask questions like that, right? Like that's
Mhm.
just not your question to ask. You have
Yeah.
to be the pregnant one or the partner with the pregnant one, whatever that scenario is, to be the one
Mhm.
to make that decision. That's it.
Yeah. Yes, I
And
totally agree
how
with
many
you.
times do you see like people go up to people outside of like Planned Parenthood with a microphone and they're like, how many babies have you adopted? And every single woman there is like, well, I haven't never adopted a baby. And it's like, exactly. So do you see like a long adoption line of, next to abortions that like people are like, here, give me your baby, like it's not that. And then
Mhm.
again, like, let's really assess the world that we're bringing these babies into. Like
Yeah.
sometimes more than anything, more than questioning having an abortion, I'll tell you,
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
biggest question is, what did I just bring these two souls who trusted me to bring them in here to this existence? What did I just bring them into?
Mhm.
Look at this world. Look at what
Right.
is around every single one of us, touching every single one of us at all times right now. The
Mhm.
amount of pain that is inflicted on a daily basis, mainly by this patriarchal society that we are living in right now,
Mhm.
this capitalistic, I call it the ick. It's not darkness because the void in darkness is beautiful. It's the feminine. It's not shadow because shadow's where dreams live. It is this ick space that has been created by some I'm gonna say it's like some kind of what is it? it's not, it's some kind of illness, you know, it's some kind of, it's this ick. That's the best way to describe it, but it is everywhere, and
Mhm.
it's trying to program all of us left and right, you know,
Mhm.
and not everyone's going to understand your decision to get an abortion, just like everyone's not going to understand your decision to have 13 kids. Like that's just
Mhm.
it. It's all the contradictions are there. All of this
Right.
seesaw is right there, and it's no one's to understand. My little brother, after he found out about my abortion, actually like was threatening me. Like
Mm.
he was pretty off his, you know, he was pretty imbalanced, let's say that. So I've forgiven him since then. We've had big talks about it since then. So I will start with that. But there were a lot of threats from him for me having made this decision, um,
Mhm.
because of how far right he was, because of his Mormon upbringing. And I'm like, you'll never understand it. First, you're 21 years old. You are not married. You have not had a girlfriend. Like, you will never understand, even when you do get married, even when you do choose to have a baby, you still won't understand it because you have not been in my body ever this entire time. Only
Right.
I will understand it.
We're interrupting this episode to share something close to our hearts, our virtual healing circles. We have been loving them so much and meeting so many of you incredible people through them. Brittany and I are passionate about bringing people together to support one another and heal in community. We felt alone on our paths for so long, and coming together in community has been instrumental to our growth, and we've both seen the importance in it. We aren't meant to do this alone. In unity and vulnerability, we find strength, courage, and support each other on our paths back to ourselves. Our monthly virtual seminars blend discussions, workshops, and practices to nurture your mind, body, and spirit. Whether seeking guidance, healing, or a listening ear, our gatherings offer a safe, inclusive space for people to connect, heal, and grow. Join us on this journey of healing in community. Together, we can heal, grow, and thrive. Register for the next circle using the link in the show notes. We hope to see you there. I think the biggest thing that I've learned just throughout this whole thing, and for women specifically, is like, you don't have to justify your decision. Like, I think as women, we feel this need to over explain, to be heard, or to just be understood. Everyone wants to be understood. We need to stop. Like, you don't need to justify your decision. You had an abortion. You did what you needed to do for you, period. End of story. You don't need to justify it. You don't need to say, oh, but I didn't want to go down the, nope. Like, that is a full sentence. And I think that's something that is really empowering me, is like, I don't have to justify my decision. I know that I did what I needed to do for me, and I am at peace with my decision. And that is all that matters. Genuinely, that is all that matters. Anyone else is allowed to have any of their opinions. If they feel called to bring it to me, they can do so in a respectful way. That doesn't mean that I need to take it on. That doesn't mean I need to over explain myself. It's just, you did what you needed to do for you. And I think that there's something really powerful in that, of just realizing you don't need to over explain. And yeah. So I feel that that's something that, as collective as women, we need to just reclaim that, and not need to save your energy for the people that do understand you and do see you and do hear you, and like can really meet you where you're at. You don't need to waste your breath on people that are never open to understanding in the first place. So I think that that's just something that's so important. um but yeah, I just want to ask, like, what would you share with moms who have had abortions or are considering one, that feel deep shame or guilt around their decision? Like, how can we shift how we view abortion as an act of the responsible parenting, kind of like you mentioned? Like, is there anything that you would share with those moms, yeah, that are just feeling like deep shame and guilt around their decision?
Hmm. I'll say that the shame and the guilt is not theirs. It's not theirs,
Mhm.
you know? If you're like, I always like to, I, uh, I haven't exactly come up with a name for it yet, but it will come to me. I always see these like three dragons specifically. But what I like to do is when I'm working through something, we kind of start in our head, right? Like this white dragon, this masculine, lots of knowledge that's come from outside source that swirls
Mhm.
in here. So this is where like a lot of our guilt and shame hangs out. It's like all of these little thought bubbles of what everyone else has told us.
Mhm.
And I like to do a like heroine's kind of journey down into my gut. And that is where I will float down, and this black dragon's down here, and I'm like swimming with the black dragon. And I always go down there if I'm up here and feeling like a lot of guilt or shame or anxiety or whatever. And I'm like, okay, we're going down into our gut, into our womb space. This is
Mhm.
our knowing. This is our like
Yes.
knowing brain, and knowing, I say that like gnosis with a G N, like knowing this is what
Mhm.
we know. And so I like to go down there and like really feel it out and be like, what do I know? What is my root system? Where is my root chakra? Like, what, again, getting back to the why, like, what is my why? Not everyone else's why, not everyone else's should. What is my why? And then when I sit there, then I'll travel back up to my heart, which is like the green dragon. And then my green dragon gets to really like go out. Like that's when I'm really pouring forth like what I am here for, what I am supposed to do.
Mhm.
So I guess that's it. It's like travel from your head down to your gnosis, down to your gut, and then move from your heart's center, right?
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and let that guide you, because your heart knows, your heart can feel it, you know. And yeah, I think that's it. It's like get out of your head and get back into your heart, get out of your head, get back into your knowing, like your deep divine knowing.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I feel like in order to do that too, it's like you have to create space for you to sit with you. Because I think there's so much running from our pain, from shame, from guilt, just like wanting to distract and get away from anything that feels uncomfortable. And in order to, you've got to like sit with yourself and breathe and be able to connect with yourself long enough to be able to drop out of your head into the womb, into the gut, into the heart. I think really learning how to sit with yourself and like validate everything that you're feeling, but then coming back to that inner knowing, because I feel like when you sit with yourself long enough, your intuition, your higher self, your heart will show you the way, and then we can realize that everything else in the mind is just stories. Everything is just like stories that are passing by, that are trying to keep you stuck, and it's like being able to just be the viewer of that and drop back in, because I think, and just allowing space to like feel it all. If you're feeling guilt, if you're feeling shame, allow yourself to feel that for a bit, like cry, scream, shake, whatever you need to do, then come in back into the heart space, into the heart center. I just feel like there's such a call to like not run or suppress, but sit with and befriend and like nurture and love and mother yourself. um yeah, and something else too, I guess, yeah, something else too is like if you're with your children and like and you're feeling that guilt of like, what if we had a third, or what if we had, if a mom just has one child, what if I had a second, like how can you kind of like snap back into the present moment and be grateful for what you have? I just feel like there might be that deep regret or guilt that comes up when you're actually present with your children, not you specifically, but that's just like what I'm feeling for moms in general. Like when you're enjoying time with your kids and that guilt comes in, like how can you move through that? You know?
Yeah. I'm not going to speak for every woman because I
Yeah.
don't know what everyone's feeling, but
Hmm.
knowing moms and knowing what we hold and what we go
Hmm.
through, and again, like this is no small feat, right? Like we are holding worlds. I mean, like that's the other thing about this conversation, right? Is like the like how much we even just belittle motherhood, and like what
Hmm.
kind of holding that is alone, like
Hmm.
that's a whole nother conversation, right?
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
just don't foresee a lot of women who are mothers and they understand what it is to hold all of this, I don't foresee many women, and again, I'm only going to speak on my behalf, and the women that I know who have gotten abortions post motherhood, I don't
Mhm.
foresee many people regretting it.
Mhm.
I could see, and I do know a lot of women who didn't get it, who didn't
Mhm.
go, and they are overwhelmed. And not that
Yeah.
they don't love their children, they love their children. Again, the extent of love that happens when you birth yourself along with this amazing light being is unreal. So it's not that they don't
Mhm.
love them, but
Right.
are they completely overwhelmed? Are they totally stretched and divided in half and half and half again and again and again? Yes. So
Mhm.
I think the regret piece is less about people who have had abortions
Mhm.
and more about people who thought about having them and maybe got pushed into not doing it. You know what I mean?
Ooh, yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah, that's so important to bring in. I have full body chills. Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just curious too, were there any rituals or like practices that helped you reconnect to your body or your sexuality after that time? I know you mentioned like a couple days after having the procedure, like with working with water and like giving yourself space. Is there anything that you would recommend to a woman who is going in to have an abortion, like how she could really nurture herself after that procedure and process?
I mean, there's so many things I could bring in here around that, especially since ritual is like my language.
Yeah, your domain. Yeah.
I can't say that it's something that I did specifically because at that
Mhm.
point, my so my abortion, let's see, let me count back. It was like 7 years ago, maybe 6.5 years ago now.
Mhm.
So I'm in a way different place now than
Right.
then. But I would definitely work with water 100% going into it, going out of it, a lot of baths, a lot of sweet release. I personally, anytime I draw a bath, always offer either herbs or oils to the water. I really recognize and witness that the water that's coming into my bath has been in a womb, has been in the ocean, has been through bodies, has been through lifetimes. All the water that exists on this planet has always existed on this planet. So a deep honoring of the water spirits that are there.
Mhm.
Um, and then I personally do like a full release. So I will, and this is something I can share somewhere too, so people don't have to
Mhm.
write this down.
Yeah.
But I always release the water and I lay in there and I name out loud what I am invoking to release 3 times. And I let
Mhm.
the water go all the way down the drain and I fully dry off just sitting in the bath still.
Mhm.
Um, so that's one practice.
Yeah.
I also have a water practice just with drinking water and cleansing that I do. I'm happy to create rituals for people if this is something that anyone feels called to and needs more advice around. Like it's what I'm here for sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, yeah, one thing, something wanted to come in around this. I need to remember what it was. Maybe it will flow back around.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Definitely. Yes. I love working with water. And then something that I just love to do that just feels really connective, even just like with the womb, because our womb holds so much wisdom. I love to just like lay on my back and I'll have my legs kind of like out like butterfly. And then I'll just place both my hands on my womb and just send loving energy into that space. Anything that wants to come up, if there's shame, if there's guilt, if there's pain, joy, whatever, I allow myself to just sit in it and breathe and feel what I need to feel. And I think just, yeah, even just putting your hands on that womb space is just like so powerful. Even doing that in the water as you're like asking to release and to cleanse and all of that, and just speaking to yourself with so much loving kindness. Like, I think that we are so hard on ourselves and we can be so hard on ourselves, but it's like really being that nurturing mama bear energy to yourself and just saying like, I love you, I see you, I'm proud of you, you did what you needed to do for you, I'm going to be here and support you, and just just know too, I just feel like there's so much support from women that have come before us that are like cheering for us, and just so grateful that we're having like doing the things that we need to do for us and having the courage to talk about these things. But I think there's so much support, so much suppression from other women that have come before us that are like wanting to alleviate any shame that you may be feeling, that are like cheering you on and holding you in sister circles, and just like so deeply supportive. So I think when you can put your hands on that womb and reconnect to your body and your breath, there's so much like release, physical release that could even happen with that. And yeah, I think like sexuality is something that I realized I was kind of struggling with. There was a point what that like came up more along the lines of like realizing like, whoa, I've suppressed my sexuality so much because of the fear of getting pregnant again. And so something that I talked about in past episodes is like really like being intentional with, my sexuality. And when I go to have sex with my partner, being present and knowing that I'm so deeply worthy of pleasure and it's not dirty and it's beautiful, and kind of like allowing that fear to be there and like holding space for it, loving it, validating it, and then coming back to the heart of the truth of like divine timing never misses. And if we're meant to get pregnant, we will. There's nothing to worry about. Enjoy yourself. And I think just the more that you can like nurture and like really hold yourself through it, the more you can kind of like get into that. I'm curious if there's if anything with you and Jake happened around like your sexuality after that, if there was any fear that was coming up for you guys, anything that you moved through with that, just to kind of like, yeah, anything for that.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that in. I mean, I think one
Mhm.
thing to really that I keep trying to like bring into so many different places in my life around these larger topics is redefining that like our eros and our orgasms are not just to have babies.
Oh
Like,
no, absolutely not. Yes.
it is to manifest, it is to
Hmm.
create, it is again our womb spaces. Like we are master manifestors. We are especially womb holders. We are the creative essence of the divine feminine. So there's so much in there that has nothing to do with reproduction,
Hmm.
you know? And so I think again, just the way we're told starting very young, like you go through sex ed and it's immediately like your your blood goes
Hmm.
hand in hand with getting pregnant. And it's like, well, no, those two things are part of a huge, beautiful tapestry of what this is and what our yonis are and what our this whole kind of time capsule is, you know?
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so I think like I always want to just keep bringing back in like our blood is not for production, you know,
Hmm.
and there's a lot more in that that I can share at another time just around like our pain is actually our power and they make us run from it. Our rage, our sacred rage is actually our power, but you know,
Hmm.
it's PMS and just all of these things that are in there
Right.
and a part of a larger conversation. In
Hmm.
terms of mine and Jake's story, it doesn't end with the abortion. It
Hmm.
post abortion, we went through a whole nother journey. First, I'm just going to bring this in because this is the whole picture. When Jake messaged his surgeon to tell his surgeon that I was pregnant, his surgeon said back to him, "Are you sure it's yours?"
Oh my
So that's the
gosh.
first thing he said to Jake, as opposed to come in and let's get you tested.
Hmm.
We just to prove the surgeon wrong, and to just be like, yeah, you guys fucked up. Jake went and got tested. Obviously,
Hmm.
sperm's going through his semen, or I don't know. I don't know how that works. Something's
Yeah.
going on somewhere. There are
Yeah.
swimmers in there in that
Yeah.
liquid. So then we were put up, you know, the choice of another vasectomy came in. And I was like, I don't want to have to get another abortion. I never want to have to do that again.
Right.
So I went and asked if what I could do. And so I went in and got a hysterectomy actually, because I
Mm.
already had, and again, if I knew then what I know now, I would have made maybe a different decision just in terms of like how I would have gone about it. for so many different reasons. But essentially, I didn't want to go through another abortion ever. So
Mhm.
Jake getting a vasectomy again and it not working and me having to go through that again, that decision was not an option.
Right.
I have had um, pretty bad endometriosis my entire life since I was 11. So I was just ready to be done with my bleed. I didn't need to bleed anymore. I have had the kids that I needed to have. So I decided to go in and get a hysterectomy, which they will try to talk you out of. They will try to tell you that you can't make that decision for yourself. But I just like took it. I took it, my body, my choice, and I ran with it.
Mhm.
Um, so I went in to get a hysterectomy, and it was supposed to be vaginal and outpatient. And I woke up like 4 hours later than I was supposed to. Um, well, first, I'm going to back up. I went in to schedule my hysterectomy, and the nurse who was getting me ready for it asked me about what happened. And then she told me God will find a way. So it felt very like, okay, Kaiser
Yeah.
already lied to me about abortions. Now I'm one of eight women in one doctor getting a abortion after a vasectomy.
Mhm.
And then now I'm in here to get my hysterectomy, and the nurse tells me God will find a way. So if that's not some kind of undertone of some something, I
Mhm.
don't know what is, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
But then I went in to get my hysterectomy. It was supposed to be vaginal. I woke up 4 hours later than I was supposed to, and they had gone in through my abdomen because they perforated my bladder.
Oh my gosh.
And why they didn't just perforate my bladder and then have me wake up and say, unfortunately, we perforated your bladder. We got to figure out what you want to do next. They just cut in through my stomach.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's been um, a lot of healing around that.
Right. Oh,
So when you
yeah.
ask, kind of mine and Jake's Eros story, there's a lot there,
Right.
and I think there's a lot there, period. I think um, where we land sexually is even a huge rock that we need to pick up and look under,
Right.
because even that story and how we are being fed and what we're being told to do and all of these things is so um, programmed, right?
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, so it's definitely again, I guess, just a journey for two people
Yeah.
to go through, depending on
Yeah.
their whole picture, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. That is crazy that they went in and just did the surgery anyway. And then you woke up 4 hours later than you were supposed to?
4 hours later than I was supposed to, with a cut through my stomach.
Oh my gosh. That is whoa.
Yeah, there was some malpractice. My surgeon had lied to me about how many vaginal hysterectomies she had done. I
Mhm.
mean, it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. And not my body not being ready. My body didn't know that they were going to go through my abdomen, like
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
need to prepare your body for surgery. My body knew I was going in for vaginal hysterectomy. Like I was prepared, I was meditating. We were ready for that. We were not ready to get just sliced open like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's a
And then
whole
like
another thing in and of itself.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's another thing in itself, and so is birth, right?
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
whole nother it's just like this whole other thing. It's
Mhm.
this whole other thing that they're really trying to just separate us from, period.
Mhm.
Really just separating us from our bodies is
Right.
what it is.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Ugh, there's just so much to be a part of the conversation. Yeah. And yeah, everyone's story is so incredibly different, but I think the more we can share our stories and just be there for one another and yeah, support each other along the way, the better we're going to be and just really start to reclaim and remember our own wisdom and stop letting the doctrine that runs so deep in our society like base off how we live our lives. And Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your story. It's so beautiful, and just for giving us the space to be able to share everything that you did. Yeah, I feel like a lot of moms are going to resonate with you, and just so much wisdom to share around processing the experience and what it means to give birth and to be a mother, and all of that. I'm just curious if there's anything we missed, anything else that wants to come through before we wrap it up.
Hmm. I don't think so. I would love to just honor you as a mother, and really and you as a mother and every mother who's deciding this, whether or not you ever give birth or not. It is part of the mother threshold that you're crossing, to
Mhm.
get pregnant and then decide to be pregnant or not to be pregnant. Like every single woman who's making that decision is a mother making that decision. That
Mhm.
is a
Mhm.
mother threshold, that is a mother crossing. And
Mhm.
yeah, I want to honor you and the mother in you that made that decision. And I want to honor any mother out there who's deciding um, this, whether or not you do it or not. It is your choice.
Mhm.
And there is an entire community of mothers on this planet here to hold you. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I just want to end it off like, where can people find you? I know you're starting a new space, and just your social media and what you do and all of that, if anyone wants to chat with you or get to know you more.
Yeah, my company is Rooted Rituals and Unions, and I'm really just here to be a life doula to really build ritual and ceremony around all of life's many passages. And I deeply believe that ritual creates intention, and intention brings us into present moment awareness. And so
Mhm.
it just helps us live more peaceful lives. Um,
Mhm.
and I am currently in this really beautiful birthing process of this project called the Woven Wheel. And our first woven wheel is for the feminine body. And we are reclaiming all of the archetypes of the feminine body, which are maiden, mother, queen, and crone. And it's a 13-week immersion where we go through the wheel and we honor the 7 generations before us and the 7 generations to come, while really reclaiming and remembering and reawakening all of these parts of the divine feminine.
Mhm.
Um, and then we end with an in-person immersion, and we actually get to go through the thresholds and the initiation. So that's an amazing part of my project right now. There will
Mhm.
be a masculine body woven wheel for all of our male bodied people out there. And then eventually there will be an interwoven wheel, which I'm really excited about all three. Um, yeah, but
Mhm.
this is definitely one of those thresholds. So thank you for letting me speak on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing. It's so beautiful. And I'll have your website, your social medias linked in the show notes too if anyone's interested in looking into that. But just thank you so much for your insight, for your wisdom, for your dedication to this work. It's so needed. It's so beautiful. And I honor you and all that you're doing. It's so incredibly powerful to help us reclaim, especially the mama bears, reclaim your power, reclaim your worth, reclaim your body, your voice. So just thank you, thank you, thank you so much for your time and energy. I so appreciate you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you all so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday. Bye. As we wrap up today's episode, we want to extend our deepest gratitude for joining us on this journey. Your support does not go unnoticed. If you enjoyed this episode and find value in our conversations, please take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback not only helps us grow, but also allows us to reach more people who can benefit from our community of healing and support. Every review, every rating makes a difference. Thank you for being a part of the Multiple Truths podcast family. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Multiple Truths podcast. Keep speaking your truth and spreading your light. We love you, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.